In today's video, I speak to Simon Scaplehorn. He's an ex-co-worker of mine and he works as an IT software tester. Simon has no direct link to autism, however his partner does work with people with autism and he really wanted to take part in this series as a chance to learn and understand autism more. Simon also loved the dynamic of having a conversation about it with someone who has autism and somebody who doesn't, being himself. When I worked with Simon, I always found him understanding and he was always willing to help and support me in any way that I needed. I think if there was more people like Simon in the workplace, a lot more people with autism would feel understood and supported in a workplace environment. Today I speak to Simon about his life, how coronavirus is affecting him at the moment, himself growing up, and some of the diversities and challenges that Simon has faced throughout life. Hi guys, and welcome to another video of the MaxiAspie special series, The Autism Connections. And as you can tell by the intro, I am speaking with Simon Scaplehorn. So Simon, thank you for coming on and talking with me today. Obviously, me and you used to work with each other. But yeah, I mean, me and you obviously used to work with each other. I think that was probably, 2018, was it?
17, 18, yeah.
Yeah. So
because I left there at July 2018, so yeah.
Yeah.
So, some time ago.
I suppose my first question was, how has obviously coronavirus affected you? I mean, I know 2 years ago we wouldn't have thought that it would be in this situation. So
no, not at all. I mean, do you want my personal perspective, or as a household, or how do you want it?
You go for it. How you all of it really.
Well, as an individual, I'm finding it difficult to get some more work at the moment. I'm doing contract software testing. Okay. So from my perspective, the jobs are just non-existent. Now, I do live in Devon, so a lot of the software jobs are more Exeter stroke going up towards London way. Difficult one from my perspective. It's been something that, I'm working for myself. You kind of allow the infrequency of work to, you sort of budget that in, if you like. So, okay, at the moment, but things don't pick up. Have to resource, retrain, go for other fields. I'm lucky my partner works in care. Quite luckily, he's actually off all week in his care home, so he won't be home for a whole week.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it's going to be a bit lonely. Luckily, I've got two dogs, two little French bulldogs to sort of keep me company, and things like this are really interesting and a bit of fun. So I think if we can raise one awareness of how people with autism interact or have a day-to-day life, and celebrate their similarities rather than differences. I think that's the way I like to look at it. But anyway, so coronavirus, in a nutshell, as well as being, it hasn't really made a major difference to me, but a lot of people I know are actually struggling already. Yeah. I think first, at the moment, we got this first month isn't going to be so bad because people haven't been paid yet, or they're just about to be paid and whatever. But I think keep going on, unless you've been being paid weekly, it could be quite serious. I think a lot of people might have to look at retraining.
It's probably more pressure on you as well because you're self-employed, and there's probably
absolutely. From my perspective, I have only been self-employed for less than a year, so I get no help from the government. Luckily, I've got money in my business bank account to keep on paying me, but I only get paid less than minimum. I get pretty much a minimum wage, so. If it will be a struggle if I can't work, but hey, I'm in a very lucky position. I don't have a mortgage. I, moved down this side. So I'm 50, so I'm okay. I don't have kids to worry about, or and I've been very, very lucky, if you like.
Yeah.
But I really genuinely feel for people that have got kids, 2 or 3 kids, that are both out of work. Yeah,
Isn't it? It's so tough.
it is, absolutely. But hey, I think as long as something positive can come out of this, a horrific thing that it is, we've got to try and be positive, and that's all we can do, is it? I think it's easy to dwell on stuff. You hear of all these horrible people committing suicide, and not that they're horrible people, but that it's a horrible situation. It's really sad. So as a country, as a world, because it's not just us, we need to, I want to say future-proof ourselves, but how do you do that? It's not an easy thing, is it?
And it does worry me, what support people get, because obviously from an autistic kind of background as well, people with autism kind of feel that, I suppose, that pain from government already, not getting support. And I made a video the other day of, how kind of the emotional comparison between autism and how coronavirus is making people feel. People are uncertain about work. People want to socialise, they can't. They're not getting help from government. No. So it's a lot of things.
I think that, just touching on what you just said there, I mean, anxiety is going to be through the roof for everybody, and somebody that has autism, on whatever level of the spectrum that we're talking about, it's going to become a bigger thing for them, quite rightly. I mean, if you have this sort of thing happening, my God, it's major. My other half, he works as I say, he's in a lockdown for a week now. He actually works with autistic adults in a care home, and they can't go out and do their usual walks, go in the cars. Challenging times, because
I suppose that kind of stuff's challenging enough. It's hard enough already. And then
it is absolutely, and well, sometimes they understand, and that the way they express themselves as well might be quite, how should I say, quite anxious, or quite potentially violent, because they can't go out, because
it's very odd
without going into detail about people, because you can't. It's very difficult,
I think it's very hard from an autistic point of view as well, because you've got to remember, for a lot of our lives we're told to interact, we're told to socialise, we're told to do all this stuff, and now we're suddenly being told
no, you can't.
And it's difficult, it's really hard for us to.
I think everybody's going to be tested in this, Mac. Let's face it, because we all do routines, whether you like to think you do or you don't. You do. You get up in the morning, you have your shower, you have your, and if suddenly that's thrown into out the window, well, maybe for the first week it's okay, it's like a little bit of a holiday, but after that, temperament gets frayed, and you can become quite, not nasty, but direct. And I found myself last week sort of, oh, shut up, you don't know what you're on about. And I would never normally say that, but being with somebody so much, love them to bits, but you just want your own space.
I get what you mean, and I think a lot of people will go about their routine, and about a week they'll be okay, but the thing with autism is you're so used to that, to that being your way. I spoke to someone the other day, and it's took them about 3 weeks for them to get used to this routine. It'd be meltdown, and it's took them that long to kind of come to terms with it. I suppose one of my questions is obviously I'm asking all these questions to people, and it doesn't matter what so I mean, what is your connection with autism?
Okay. I've got a couple of connections, really. As I've alluded to before, worked with yourself for a year or so previously, and also my partner has worked and is currently working in a care home for autistic adults. So, I mean, I suppose I hear about it now, and I see it. Do I see it? Yeah, I think I do see it, because quite honestly, living down in Devon, I mean, excuse me, there's quite a lot of care down here
Okay.
for adults, children, elderly people, whatever. And you do actually notice when people are with their carers, or vice versa. Um, I'd like to think I don't go and look and stare, and it's quite. I try and make it a day-to-day occurrence, because I don't like to do that. But then you do get that. Oh, that person must be autistic, or must have a learning difficulty, or is in need of help of some way. Which sounds like, I shouldn't be. It's not a judgment. It's just, I've noticed this, if that makes sense. So, I don't have a little bit of an understanding of how people, but I think some people say we're on the spectrum. I guess like we are from there to there, if that's a spectrum. I'd like to think hopefully I'm at the bottom, but I have my OCD. I have my ways. I like to treat everybody uniquely. I don't think personally there's any difference between you, me, the person next door, whatever. We are all different.
I mean,
But,
I'm interested. I spoke to somebody the other day, and I said about, a lot of people always say, I asked the question, a lot of people always say, everyone's a little bit autistic, and I said, what do you think about that? And she did turn around to me. She goes, I hate that. And then I asked her, I asked her why, and she said it's like going up to someone going, I'm a little bit pregnant. So it's interesting to me, to listen to, because for me, I mean, I am a firm belief that some people show symptoms and tendencies of conditions, but I don't necessarily believe that means they're on the spectrum or got it, because sometimes for me, I think, and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general, sometimes we'll say, well, everyone's a bit of autistic, so they don't have to learn about it, so they don't have to understand it. It's almost it's almost like everyone's got a little bit of it, so I don't need to.
It's the norm. That's an interesting way. I've always really had that sort of, everybody is different, and so somebody,
one of my questions as well is, tell me about yourself. Tell me, I suppose, about you growing up, and just tell me about yourself, really. I mean, one of my questions is, tell me about yourself, and do you think autism was really known, when you were growing up, but also your life growing up, what kind of I suppose diversity or things that you found difficult.
So I was born on the 10th of April, so I had my birthday on a Good Friday this year. I was 50, and I couldn't really do anything. Sorry?
I was about to say, did you go out? But
I went and stood on the curb, and sort of waited for the postman, but he didn't come. I'm 50. Hi. No, so I was born in 1970, and it was a completely different world then when I was growing up. Makes me sound like an old fart, excuse my language. I was one of 5 children, two of which have unfortunately passed. My parents now have both passed sort of 2-3 years ago now, bless them. I had, I want to say, I wouldn't say privilege, but normal, because it was normal to me upbringing. Went to schools, after school clubs, that kind of stuff. My best friends, still my best friends from school, kind of thing.
How did you find school? Did you find it hard, difficult? Or?
Yeah, very. I didn't read. I'm a really bad reader, which is strange because I do QA. QA is my job. I'm tester, but I reading out loud. Forget it. I can read a book. Of course, I can read a book, and I can read stuff. But ask me to read out loud, I see words that aren't there. So whether I'm dyslexic or any form, I don't know. But to me, I'm the most confident person in the world. But give me a book to read out loud, forget it.
Yeah,
I go to pieces. I absolutely go to pieces. So that's one of my things. But then, you know, I know kids these days that read books left, right, and centre and read out loud. And I felt quite embarrassed actually. One of my friend's daughters was reading me a book when I was babysitting for them. She was about 8, and it was amazing. She was brilliant.
Yeah,
I felt like that big, but I just can't do it. But I've learned I won't let it stop me.
No.
So yeah, I was one of 5. Complete klutz, broke my arm, fell out of trees, that kind of stuff, fell off a bike, fell through glass windows, broke my wrists, all sorts of stupid things I've done. I was bullied as a kid, big time. I mean, I'm 6 foot, probably as you can see, I'm not exactly small. So, and I've always been big, freakishly big. I had size 12 adult shoe at primary school. And so, I've always been big. But I was bullied so badly for that. I was chased and pinned down on the floor and spat at and all sorts, physically and verbally. Has it made a big difference?
Made you stronger? Or
sorry, again, what was that?
You think it made you a stronger person?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't say I wish it on anybody. Bullying is not right on any level, regardless. Absolutely, it isn't the right thing to do. There are things in life you can do which can make you stronger, but I think there are ways about going about that constructively rather than bullying. You know, you're different, you're weird, you're a freak. No. You might have a different opinion. You might be taller and I might be bigger. Sorry, I don't mean fatter. I don't want to use that word because it's very negative. But you know, I think I've been very lucky. I've been able to take that away and turn it into something positive and learn to be a better person, and learn not to copy that and not to indulge it and not to give it any space or time. You know, it's those people that unfortunately aren't aware or think their life is so perfect. Well, I've got news for you, buddy. It really isn't. You know, but I think I've become the better person for not ignoring it. Maybe I haven't ignored it. Maybe it's chipped away at me a little bit, but
you've become better because of other people.
I've become better because I've learned that I'm not doing stuff like that. You know, so bullying, wrong. Anybody out there that's being bullied because of any form of difference or condition, if you like, or one leg, 2 legs, wheelchair, people that are shorter, taller, thinner, too thin, too much weight on them, whatever, you know, it's nobody's right to judge you. The only person that should be judging you or doing anything is yourself, and trying to make yourself a better person. That's the way I look at it. But I had to have a modicum of bullying to understand that, I think. My diversities, I'm gay. My brother also was. One of them, unfortunately, has passed.
How did you find that, you know, growing up, I suppose? Both.
Well, in the 70s, 80s, it was completely different, Max.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a 30-year age gap between us, I guess. The time was different, you know. We had none of this technology that we have now. You know, video conferencing. I was lucky if I got a calculator, do you know what I mean? I used to go out playing a lot. you know, I didn't have video. Well, I had one computer console when I was like 15, 16, sort of thing, 85, 86. But we used to be out swinging on tyres, and so I never knew about computers and stuff until I started working. So
Yeah.
I think I want to say normal, but what is normal? It was just what I had. I have nothing really to compare it to, apart from speaking to yourself and people that about these sort of things. I'd like to think it's made me relatively well adjusted.
Well, I just wonder,
You know.
obviously growing up in a time where it was different, and obviously being gay, and
Yeah.
potentially people might, I suppose, bully you because of that, or
Well, I didn't come out till I was 29, and I think my brother was himself. He lived in Brighton, and in London and Amsterdam, and it was just him. That's who he was, and people accepted him for it, or didn't, and quite a lot didn't. So I didn't really come out until I was 29. He died by the time I was 26.
Wow.
So
that was hard.
yeah. Oh, amazingly. You never think. I mean, I'm older than him now, and you think I shouldn't be older than my brother, but he died when he was 31. Really weird.
Yeah, never.
Of course, that had a big impact on my parents as well. You should never lose a kid. I'm a firm believer in what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
You just literally. I've probably told you before. We've spoken about stuff in the past, and I'm a firm believer of just crack on.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on it. It is what it is. You can't change what you've done. You can be sorry for it. You can repent. You can
apologize.
You can change your future attitudes.
Yeah.
But you can't change what you've done.
No.
And just crack on and be a better person, and just be the best person you can be.
Especially with me, and potentially, even with my autism as well. I often compare myself to others. I think we all compare anyway. But,
oh, mate, we all compare ourselves.
But
absolutely.
I think sometimes, with my condition, I will just keep going over and over and over on it, and to the point where I've had conversations with you, and you've gave me that advice, and it's made me go, actually, you're right. There's no point in keep worrying and keep panicking, and sometimes
it's difficult to say that, though. Yeah, you're right, absolutely. And do you know what? I've got to an age now. I keep on alluding back to my age, but I've learnt so much about myself over the last 20, 30 years that you change. You do change when you're getting older. Your perspective changes. Everything. No, what's the point? You get that quite relaxed, sort of. Just, I can't do anything about it. So, But when you're younger, maybe this sort of works with the autism. Sometimes you want to do more to impress, more to get somewhere in life, and because you're thinking about that all the time, maybe your autism is fueled by that. I guess. I'm not saying I don't care. I do, but I've learned to disconnect a little bit.
I think with my autism, I've always wanted to prove that I'm just as capable as anyone else. And from a young age as well, I always wanted just to fit in, and people to think of me as, I suppose, being normal. And that was tough.
There's no such thing, mate.
It's very true.
There is no such thing as normal.
And that's what I've kind of learnt to accept, is this word normal is very...
That's what I do, normal. What is normal?
It's down to opinion, isn't it? There's no point, as you say, trying to impress people with your life, because you're not going to impress everyone.
No. The best person you can be is the best version of you. And that is...
It's true.
It's really,
One of the things I had to ask as well, what was it like, I suppose, working with me, and had you worked with people with autism before?
Well, what was it like to work with you? My God. I'm not allowed to swear, am I?
Look at the list, yeah.
No, no. Do you know what? Day one, I didn't actually know you were autistic, because it was not. I don't think anybody. You told me you were autistic. I didn't know, and I hadn't heard from anybody at work, and which is a good thing, because I think, you know, it was not their news to give.
Yeah.
You know, what was it like working with you? I think if I had to have something that was sticking out, I would say, and I don't know if this is you or something to do with autism, but I have told you on numerous times that, like on phone calls and stuff like that, you never know when to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you just keep on going. We keep on going over the same stuff. So you have to go to you, right, Max, enough, you know.
Absolutely.
The subject, you know. But then I know people like that, and I don't know if they're autistic. I know lots of people like that, you know. One of my really good mates, it's like if he comes over for dinner or something like that, time 12, 1 o'clock in the morning comes, it's like, go home now, please, mate. You know, I'm just,
it's so confused. It's very difficult, you know, for a lot of the time, you know, for my autism anyway, you know, I'm terrible at picking up social cues. Like, for instance, there's things that you should do that you that to anyone else is apparent. You could try and hint to that person, like you know, like, want another drink, and you know,
we had a conversation about that, haven't we? Yeah, do you want another drink? Which in adult speak generally is like, go home, I want to get to bed. You know, yeah, absolutely.
That would fly over my head, because I don't recognise that social cue. To me, you're actually saying, do you want another drink?
Yeah,
and, you know. And I suppose that is hard, I think, for not only obviously myself, but hard for someone, you know, like you as well, who I suppose sometimes you might feel that you can't say that, you know, because you're at the risk of upsetting or you know.
Yeah, no, I do know. 20 years ago, I might have been like that and got and just said, look, you know, nothing, you know. Oh yeah, okay. Now I'd be like, come on, mate, I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
You don't have to be nasty with it. You can say, look, sorry, Max, it's like 11 o'clock, whatever. I want to get a good night's sleep tonight. You know, can we pick this up another time, sort of thing? You know, there's no need to ever be nasty to anybody about it, is there?
It's just being mindful, isn't it, and wording it.
Exactly that. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I probably don't pick up on hints. You know, I'm not an expert in everything. I don't know. I just know I'm comfortable with myself, and you know, it's taken me a long time to be that, and that hopefully shows that you've wanted to sort of do this little sort of thing, that you feel my modest little opinion could be quite valid.
You know, it's important when we look at autism that we don't just look at it from, you know, my view. You know, we also, you know, pick it up from people that you don't have it, you know, that might think that that's okay or this is okay, not necessarily, you know it. You know, I think it's awareness, and I think
awareness.
And the problem with the awareness is there's so many people that are aware of it, but there's so many people that don't still understand. You know, and that's the kind of biggest, you know, bugbear I have is you know, people kind of go, oh, you know, I know what autism is. It's a bit like Rain Man, isn't it? And you know, you can't look people in the eye, and in reality, it's like, no, it's different for everybody, you know.
Yes.
You know, do you think, you know, government, schools, employment are doing enough, you know, for people like myself, you know, with autism? And
because my partner's been in working with autism for some time now, before I met you, and no, there wasn't. But until I met you working at where we worked, I mean, we all go around in our own little bubble. And I think it's a form of protection, because the world can be so tough. You know, we've had, the world's better than it ever has been, I think, but it's still tough. You know, and everybody's doing their 37.5-hour weeks or 60-hour weeks or whatever they're doing to get by. And kind of everybody goes like, don't want to know. It doesn't affect me. I don't want to know. Very difficult.
You know, I think the thing that I like about you and this interview is you don't claim to be an expert. You're very
Not at all.
happy to say there's probably things that I've said that will be wrong, and there's probably things that I've said that people will go, that's great. But what I always liked about you was you're always willing to understand and want to learn. When you met me at the place that we worked, it wasn't like me saying, do you know how many people with autism in full-time work? It's not like you went, no, and I don't want to know. You are.
We'd have a conversation about it, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
There needs to be more people like that, because you are quite acceptive, and you are quite you want to know, because you care, and
I do care, absolutely. And that's one thing I think that I do. I consider you a mate. I really do, and we've been kept in contact since we both left the place where we worked. And I do care about my mates, absolutely. And you don't have to be normal to be my mate, because there is no such thing. But we are all people. People with autism are people. Treat people with respect. Everybody deserves respect.
Thank you, Simon, as well, for
my pleasure.
And thank you for a great interview.
Well, thanks, Max. And any time you want me back, I'll be there.